literally, like, this girl got on her bike and she rode away from her mom and I. And then she stopped on the sidewalk. She turned around. And like, I swear to you, the clouds parted and like there's sun shining on this girl. And like, I mean, she's beaming, like grinning from ear to ear.
Welcome to Tell Me About Your Bike, the podcast about the meaning of life, the universe, and cycling. I'm your host, Wesley Cheney. In today's episode, I return to the second half of my conversation with Charleston Bike Shop owner Andrew Greene. We talk about minimalism on bicycles, our dreams for bicycle infrastructure, and the greatest moments of owning a bike shop. If you enjoy this podcast, please share it with a fellow cyclist. Please like, review, and subscribe to Tell Me About Your Bike wherever you get your podcasts. This podcast grows by word of mouth. Listen now to another episode of Tell Me About Your Bike. All right, tube or tubeless?
If it's a 700 by 35 or a bigger tire, tubeless.
Yeah.
If it's a road bike and like you're in a race, you're doing a triathlon, then, you know, set it up tubeless. But if it's everyday road riding, I'm still in the tubed camp.
Yeah.
Side note to that, I've been running the thermoplastic tubes for 2 seasons now, and I think they're the best thing ever.
Wow.
Yeah. Are they expensive? Yes. But I have had the same tubes for 2 seasons and 0 flats.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
Yeah. And again, that's on my road bike, but I will say that I think that's the best technology that's come out recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
Hardtail or softtail?
No, there's no right answer here. There's no wrong answer either.
Yeah.
Every rider gets to decide that for themselves. Yeah, it just depends on what you're riding on.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Clipless or flat?
Again, there's no right answer for everybody. I'm a clipless kind of guy. I know as many or more, you know, flat pedal people in the mountain bike world. It's just whatever you're happy with. They're both great. But for me, it's clipless.
All right. When it comes to drivetrains, do you prefer 1x12 or 3x9?
I'll take a 1x any day.
Okay.
It's just so simple. You know, I kind of have a minimalist streak. So like the fewer parts that are hanging on my bike, the better, if you ask me. You know, if it just the practicality of, you know, where to put things on your handlebars after a certain point. Like if you've got a shifter on your left hand, but you also want to run a dropper post, then you've got to figure out like where are those going to align? How are they going to cohabitate? Yes. Same thing. Like, just it's easier without it. You have essentially the same gear range, or almost all of it with the 1x. I'll take the 1x and I'll make the sacrifice just for the ease of everything else, like fitting on my handlebars.
Well, I'm on the opposite side with my new bike. I went with 3x9, and I've actually used all the gears now. So,
well, you know, it's with with anything not a mountain bike. You know, it's expected to have a front derailleur.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I thought we were talking about mountain bikes, Wesley.
Well, we were, but what about on your gravel bike? Would you want 1x12 or 2x12?
I have 1x, and it works. Again, because I went outside the box to get some extra gear range on the cassette, and that makes it work. Let's see, before I built up the Cannondale that I have now that has a proprietary seat post, I had a round seat post on my last gravel bike, and I had a dropper post in it. So I have a dropper post remote on my left hand, so I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
have a shifter there.
Right.
Because Shimano makes one that the brake lever is a dropper remote, and it's fantastic. It's integrated, it's seamless, it's a perfect solution if you have a one by drivetrain.
Right.
So I got the one by drivetrain in order to make the dropper post work on my left hand.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, I've been trying the suspension seat post, and I'm loving that on my mountain bike.
Uh-huh.
It integrates well on a hardtail, so it cushions out enough. But I still have to like before I would go down Big Bear at Kanawha State Forest, I would drop it manually, with the wrench that I'm carrying in my bag, an extra couple of inches just to be able to get my butt over the back of the bike. Andrew, tell us about Charleston Bike Center. How long has it been open?
Let's see. Charleston Bicycle Center opened in 1988.
Wow.
Which is, that does make it the longest running bike shop in the city of Charleston. There were several other shops in town. There's been some population decline and whatnot. And it's been the one that weathered the storm. We're not the only shop in the area, but as far as shops in Charleston, we are the longest running. Kind of blows my mind to think about it.
And how long have you been working at the shop? I'm assuming you haven't been here since '88.
No. I was in elementary school in 1988. So I've been at the shop as an employee for 10 and a half years and as an owner for 4.
Okay. Has it always been in the same space?
It has always been in the same place, 409 53rd Street in Kanawha City, if you're asking. Even if you're not asking, I will make that shameless plug.
All right. How would you describe the bike scene in Charleston in particular and in West Virginia in general?
Okay, so in Charleston, there's a good amount of riding for any kind of rider. There are a couple of different parks within, I'm going to say, 20 minutes of Charleston. 5 of them that you can get out and mountain bike.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of single track around. It's West Virginia, right? Our theme song is Country Roads, Take Me Home.
Mm-hmm.
There are scenic, challenging, low traffic, rural, secondhand roads in every direction. That's where you'll see me spending most of my bike time. And then, riding around like in town, we've got the riverfront, the Canal Boulevard here. So there's plenty of places, for the more like recreational kind of cruising type cyclist who wants to get out and, ride 3, 4, 5, 6 miles and do it here, in the middle of the city. It kind of caters to really any type of cyclist.
Yeah, I really enjoy riding down Canal Boulevard as my warm up before I get to Edgewood Drive, and then I do the climb up Edgewood, drop down the backside of it, and then climb back up and down, and that will be an hour ride for me, and I'll love that.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned it. This is the Mountain State, so yes, we have lots of hills.
Oh, I love it. Well, that's what you helped build my new bike, my new Surly disc trucker. And it's designed specifically for riding very slow up the hills and very fast down the hills.
Very fast down the hills all depends on who's riding it.
Yes, that's true.
But I get the feeling that you might as well take advantage of that free speed, and you seem to be a guy who enjoys that. I
grew up doing it in Vermont. So I knew as a teenager, I would just take off on my bike and say I'll be back for dinner. And I knew of about 4 or 5 hills within a 12 or 15 mile ride of my house where I could break 40 miles an hour on the descent.
And that was the stated goal, wasn't it?
Yeah, I loved it. I loved it. I would watch my little bike computer with the LED screen on the front of my handlebar that I'd ordered from Bike Nashbar, and I would watch as it climbed up, and I would 39, 40, 41, 42 exceed the speed limit on the descent. So
Yeah.
the terrain was very much like Charleston, where I grew up in Vermont.
Yeah, it's great. Like we have flat-ish roads around here.
Yeah.
We've got all the climbing you could possibly want. So yeah, there's a good mix of kind of everything.
Yeah. So what do your bike sales look like? What style of bike is the most popular that you sell?
Um, our most popular, like categorically, I would say are either entry-level hardtails, or like an urban, kind of a city bike.
Yeah.
So it's either going to be, for like that teenage kid getting into mountain biking, or it's going to be, like an adult who just wants a bike to ride around town.
Mm-hmm.
Those are I'm going to say the most, popular seller, year in, year out.
So tell me about the bike race series that came to Charleston.
Oh, okay. So, I don't know exactly how this happened, but, last year Charleston was the host of the USA Cycling Pro Road National Championships for the first of 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Big thanks to, Tim Brady at the Charleston CVB and, Mayor Amy Goodwin. I think they were really the ones that were, pointedly involved and behind the push to make that happen. It was an absolutely fantastic week. We had juniors, 17, 18-year-olds. We had under 23s, and then we had the elite pros racing time trials and criteriums and road races here in the city of Charleston. The event this year is also going to include paracycling. And so I think we're changing from 6 days of racing to 7 or 8. Yeah. So bigger and better even this year. We had pros wandering around and riding on their bikes like in Charleston, just as if they belonged here. And
it was exciting.
It was so much fun. I took a different way to work than I normally get myself to work, just with the express thought. This is Monday, the day before the racing started last year. I thought, you know what, I'll take the boulevard and just see if there are any cyclists out on the boulevard, and ran into Corin Lebecki.
Mm-hmm.
She had dropped her chain. She won the criterium.
She won the criterium.
Yeah. She had dropped her chain like right by the Capitol. So I pulled off the side of the road and like went over like, hey, do you need any help? Are you okay? She was like, no, I'm fine. I was like, I'm sorry. I'm not, I'm at a bike shop over on the other side of town. I went 100% fanboy for a minute. I was like, we always have bike racing on at the bike shop. And so I'm like, I don't know how many times I've watched this woman in a race. And like, here she is a couple of blocks from where I live. I'm like, this is
with a drop chain.
A lot to take in. Yeah. By the time that I had pulled over and got out of the truck, like she had, she had it fixed and was ready to get back on her bike, and I was just in her way and whatever. But, it was a fun week. But like, not to name names or, to be dropping names or whatever, but like if you're a cycling fan and have watched the Tour de France for years, like I got to meet and talk to guys like Lawson Craddock and Nielsen Paulus, and Brandon McNulty was here. I didn't get to like shake hands or high five him or anything. That was a bummer. But then, obviously like we had Kristen Faulkner won the road race here last year. And then went on to win the Olympic gold medal last summer. So like it was a big season for her. And it's kind of a cool part of the story that, Charleston, West Virginia had was one of the platforms that she stood on the top of last year. So That was a thing that I never thought was going to happen, and then it did, and will for the next 4 years. So yeah, it was a very cool event, and like I said, bigger and better this year even.
What impact has the national races had on Charleston?
I think in the short term, it immediately got a bunch of people who have maybe ridden on the road bike before,
Mm-hmm.
or have thought about it before, thinking about it again.
Yeah.
Obviously, like there was a massive economic impact just from all of the racers who were in town, for some of them for a couple of weeks,
Yeah.
like the week of the racing and leading up to it. But a lot of spectators were in town that week. Like I met people from all over the country, just like just talking to people, saying, like, where are you from? When like there were, there were racers from all over the country. So like made some new friends. It was a good event, all told. The other thing that's kind of been, a little more long term is that like we're seeing more people like getting back out on their bikes.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, like there was an initial like short term impact. We saw a bunch of bikes come into the shop that had been in storage for years, or in a garage, or like got bought used off of the internet for like a couple $100, stuff like that they wanted to get rehabbed and checked over. And so like people, like a lot of mountain bikers were doing that. Like they had kind of been on the fence about road cycling, and then saw the racing, and like I'm sure there were kids, like I don't know that I have any of these stories in my pocket, but like my hope is that there are going to be some kids who like saw the racers flying down Loudon Heights at 50 miles an hour, and were like, oh my gosh, like that's what I want to do.
Right.
And then they go out and do that. I still feel like a kid a lot of times, and I'm I'm a 40 something now, so like the likelihood that it's going to happen is zero. But like you emulate your heroes, right?
Right. Right.
So that we have Strava, like I can compare my times here or there, wherever.
Yeah.
I can compare that against all of the pros who were here, and it's frustrating to know that there are some KOMs that we had around here locally that maybe like I had it in the past, or I wanted to take back, or I wanted to go get in the first place, or whatever, that like are now completely out of reach. But yeah, I'll trade that for the having the national championships here. It's been well worth it, I'd say.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Strava, I set a personal record for Edgewood Drive on my new bike without even really trying.
That's fantastic.
I know. I was like, it's so much faster than my mountain bike.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. All right. If you had $1 million grant, what investments would you make in Charleston for biking?
Oh wow. You didn't send me this question ahead of time.
No, I just thought of it.
Okay, what investments would I make in Charleston cycling? Um, wow, Wesley, that's a really good question. Um, if I had funds to upgrade things in Charleston, I think there might. This is probably going to exceed the $1 million grant you
All
just
right.
asked
Make it
about.
100 million.
Oh well, okay. Let's dream big then. If I had $100 million to spend on cycling improvements, I think there would be some roads that I would shrink,
Yeah.
like from 2 lanes each direction to 1 lane. And there might even be,
I could see that from
now,
McCorkle Avenue.
yeah, Yeah, McCorkle would be a good one. And the Canal Boulevard, which that kind of is in process. So it's it's dreaming pretty small, thinking that it's going to happen anyway.
Yeah, but
But
at least on Canal Boulevard, you've got the trail next to it that you can
yeah,
ride on. Which
and they are like there is a project going on that will expand it, and I think it's going to cut down the number of traffic lanes
yeah,
in order to accommodate that. But yeah, I think I would want to do something similar on the other side of the river.
hmm
Um, make access on McCorkle's side of the river a little bit more stress free
I would love
for
to.
cyclists.
I would love to see at least one of the bridges with some bicycling infrastructure on it, because you can't get
Yeah,
from one side of town to the other without mixing it up with cars, and there's a 35 mile per hour speed limit, and
right.
I honestly haven't even tried to ride across any of the bridges.
Yeah, you can't do that. That's like as far as being in the city, like some of the steepest terrain is to get up and over one of those bridges because they go up so steeply
Right.
from the road on either side.
So you're only doing
Um,
like 5 or 6 miles per hour in a 35 zone, and you're trying to
yeah,
take the lane.
right. And yeah, it's just that's asking for trouble. But yeah,
I
that's a very good idea.
I guess you got the pedestrian walkway on the 36th Street Bridge, um, and that
Yeah, but there's not quite really enough space for that. If you come onto a cyclist, the opposite direction, then you're both getting off and walking.
right,
And more
because it's
often
not
than
wide
not,
enough.
right, a pedestrian, can squeeze over against the wall. Um, but it's like there's traffic on the bridge, like the lane right beside the bike pedestrian
Yeah,
space, like that, they're coming off the interstate. So they're usually doing like, at least 50 miles an hour coming through
right.
there and slowing down, but still like that's kind of unnerving.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think I would want to see. Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on both of those, McCorkle Avenue and the bridges. That'd be the biggest thing I think we could do to improve. Just really would give enough or enough accessibility that I think more people would do it
yeah,
to get like across the city effectively.
right. Because right
Um,
now it's split into two sides, and by the river, and that's just the nature
yeah,
of the beast.
we can't really move the river very well, can we?
No, we can't. We can't. All right. Um, so two more questions for you. So first off, what was your experience building up my Surly disc trucker? What was that like for you?
Oh, that was a fun project. Um, Obviously, like I could see your personality coming out
Uh
in
huh.
in the build by the parts that you chose, that was really fun. So on one hand, that was a lesson in getting to know you better. Um, which I mean, that's kind of the way I'm wired, though. Like
Yeah.
yes, like I can geek out on all of the details and the parts and whatnot. Um, like that's fine. That's all well and good. But like really, like I'm wired for for people.
hmm
Like I I want to take care of your bike because I want to take care of you.
Yeah. All
You
right.
know, like that's the thing that gets me out of bed in the morning is the people that we deal with. Um, the bikes are just a tool to do that. Um, I know the enjoyment that you're going to get out of it. So like putting everything together for you, like building the wheels up and all that.
Yeah.
And like the wheels were the thing that I got to pick on the bike, and like you picked all of the other parts, So, um, like I put myself in your shoes really, and got to think about like what's going to serve you best. In what I had control over, which is like building the wheels for you. And so then at the same time, like as I'm getting all of the other parts out and like putting the bike together for you, there were a couple of things that just weren't going to serve you, the way that
Yeah.
the bike should,
Like
in the
the
long
brake
run.
levers for the brake levers for the aero bars didn't work
Yeah,
out.
right. And there's, I was a little bit worried, but I was glad after the conversation that we had about that. It was
Yeah.
like, Wesley, I don't think that this is gonna I don't think this is gonna act the way that you want it to. And so like in that moment, beforehand, I was like, well, like let's just have this conversation and say, this is not quite going to work the way that you think it's going to, and it would be better if we had this instead, to do what you want it to do. Like this thing is really going to take care of you better in the long run,
Right.
because like ultimately that's the goal.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
is so yeah. Like I put on my hat where I think. Like what's going to be the best thing at the end of the day for what this bike is going to do with you,
Yeah.
you know? So yeah, that's ultimately I'm failing for words here.
No,
Like
you're good.
that's the thought that that I have to, to keep coming back to. Like that's the centering
Yeah.
point is, is this part going to function the way that it's supposed to for what you're going to be asking the bike to do?
Yeah.
Or is it not going to function the way that it's supposed to? Is it not going to do what you want it to do? Is it going to fail you? It's my job to see that potential failure beforehand and try to avert it.
Mm-hmm.
We want to avoid those at all costs. I mean, really, in all honesty, like it could be your neck on the line, literally.
Right. Right. Yes, for sure. Which is why I was like, I don't want to go with machine built wheels. I want them built by a bicycle mechanic who knows what they're doing and has built hopefully hundreds of wheels beforehand.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
Yeah. So yeah, I thank you again for your trust in me,
Yeah.
and us. So yeah, that was, like I said, it was a fun project. As much for, I will say the challenging moments,
Yeah.
where we needed to like back away from this thing or from that thing, and kind of go back to the drawing board and figure out like this isn't quite doing what it should. So like, why is it not? And what's the fix for it? And like, what would do that? And the other side of it being a really fun project was just to, get to know more about you and like who you are as a cyclist,
Yeah.
which it really did.
Cool. All right. Final question for you. What's the
Okay.
most satisfying aspect of owning a bike shop?
Oh, I saw this question ahead of time, and to answer this, I'm gonna tell you a story. This was years ago, 8, 9 years ago, probably. There was there was a little girl about 6, 7 years old. She had a bike already, but like it was too small. She had outgrown it. And for like I was thinking back, and for the life of me, I cannot remember this girl's name. Like I can see her face, but I can't remember her name. And so her mom brought her in, and so like we went through and like found a bike that was the right size for her, and she found one that was a color that she absolutely loved. And so we pulled the bike out of the rack, and she sat on it. I got the seat, adjusted for her so she could, get her feet to the ground and pedal and all the things. And we put a helmet on her, and we took her out to the sidewalk in front of the shop for a test ride. And it was kind of it was a spring day. It was fairly warm, but it was a little bit overcast.
Mm-hmm.
Like I mean, you obviously like there was some sun, but there were more clouds than there were sun. And so like when we walked out in the front of the store, it was like we were behind a cloud, so there wasn't any like direct sunlight. And I know this is going to sound cheesy, but like literally, like this girl got on her bike and she rode away from her mom and I. And then she stopped on the sidewalk and she turned around. And like, I swear to you, the clouds parted and like there's sun shining on this girl. And like, I mean, she's beaming, like grinning from ear to ear.
Oh,
Like,
that's great.
yes, no, like this is no exaggeration. Like this actually happened. The clouds did part and like there's this beam of light shining on this girl. And like, she's super cute and whatever, but she is like ecstatic, on this bike. And, like, her mom is obviously, she's like, okay, well, we're buying this bike now. And, like I was an employee at the shop, and I didn't get a bonus for selling the bike or anything. Like, it didn't work on commission. I worked by the hour. So like, I didn't get paid any more because I sold this bike. If they had been like, okay, great, thanks. And and just left without, buying it. There's like that. It made no difference to me financially whatsoever.
Right.
But like the smile on that kid's face, like, is one I will never forget. It's just like, it is burned in my memory.
Oh, wow.
And, it's just like, I had this kind of, existential moment where it was like, like the joy that kid has, is like, you can't buy it, like there's nothing you can do to, manufacture that. Just, I've seen that time and time again. With, it's like, we've seen some people who have come in, who were like really in bad health, and used the bike as a tool as part of their weight loss journey. One of the guys that I ride with pretty frequently, with him or with his wife and other people, he's lost about 130 pounds.
Wow.
And riding a bike was a huge part of that, just getting out and getting exercise. And I mean, he's in better shape and faster than I am now, which is frustrating. But he also has a lot more time to ride than I do. But, so like, seeing stories like that and, knowing, the joy and the satisfaction, but like the health benefits, and like, I mean, like he's now a really good friend of mine, and like the health that he has now, physically speaking, is going to, give him physically, literally a better life, for many, many, many years to come, because of riding a bike. Like, this is the kind of thing that, I kind of knew that going in, but, I didn't necessarily have a grid for how much of an impact, like, 2 wheels and a crank set in the middle of them, like, could have on a person.
Yeah.
So in a long answer there, that's the thing that is the best part of owning a bike shop.
All right. Well, Andrew, thanks so much for talking on Tell Me About Your Bike. I appreciate it. And I'll see you soon.
All right, Wesley, thank you for having me.
So thanks for listening to Tell Me About Your Bike. I'll be back with a bucket list episode next time when I visit the steepest paved street in North America with my new bike. Will I be able to conquer it? Subscribe now and be the first to know. Keep the rubber side down and keep riding. Cheers, y'all. Copyright Rambling Ukulele Productions 2025. All rights reserved.